Hi, everyone. Welcome to the FLF podcast brought to you by J3VC. Really excited to be here with one of my partners, Jeromie, here today. Jeromie, how are you?
Doing fantastic, Jason.
Okay, awesome. So we, as usual, are in different locations. Jeromie, you're in Thailand, and I'm in Australia right now. I thought today we might delve into some of the really, I guess, critical components. And we've had some conversations and meetings this past week on this topic about relationships and network, and particularly around like solving problems and dealing with problems like in the most, in an effective way. So I think, we wanted to dive into that. And, we get asked a lot, how did you guys meet? Like, how come it works so well, between the three of you? What would you recommend for me, like in my, situation? And this was a conversation I had last night, and was asked this same question, like, how do you find, or how do you work with, the right people? And this person was saying to me, they tend to work solo, tend to work by themselves, and see like what we're doing and how we're working. And we're discussing that last night, and came up with a few kind of big rocks among the little rocks of things that are like critically important. And so I want to ask you, Jeromie, like from your perspective, I know you've had this as well, like in Thailand the last couple of days, and solving some problems of late. What would be your take, like on this topic?
On this particular topic, I do think the old adage that people working together isn't an addition of the brains to multiplication. And so if you do it in a smart way, if you've got, say, for example, three incredibly handsome, good-looking guys who are really good at different things, and then they put their heads together to try and solve a problem, what you'll get is you'll get three different competent and capable people looking at the problem from a different angle, so they can actually see different things that the other person can't see. So then when you iterate and you get to the fifth or sixth, person one says, why don't we try this? And then person two says, oh, that's a great idea, but you didn't think of this. And then person three says, that's a good idea, but you didn't think of this. Then it goes back to one. They're like, knowing that new information I have now, why don't we do this? And you find that, for example, if you've got three people, that goes around 3 or 4 times, then all of a sudden you've got a solution that is mind-blowing to each individual person. Each individual person said, it would have taken me 3 years to come up with that, and we've just come up with that in 2 or 3 minutes by working together as a team. So that's the upside of working together, and the downside is that the best way to put it is you need to be incredibly well-versed, and you need to have a lot of experience, and you need to really know and understand people, how they work. Because if you choose the wrong, it can be catastrophic.
Yeah, yeah. I think like one of the principles I keep coming back to is who before how. So rather than thinking, how am I going to solve this problem? Who do I need to speak to? Who do I need to, work with or connect with to deal with this problem? And that typically helps to like expedite and solve that problem a lot faster. And I mean, we've had this just recently where, we had a problem that we were trying to solve, and if we were going down the traditional route, it probably would have taken maybe a couple of months, and you would have taken a few months to go through solo. And we put our heads together, and within a week we had a solution, and that solution was executed upon, and the solution was only like 1 degree of separation like away
Yeah.
from us. Yeah, anything you want to say on that story without giving away too much? Like,
Yeah, I think
what did you learn in the process? Because we've been trying to solve so many problems, but what did you learn going through that process?
I learned a lot, but I think the major takeaway is to really just loop back to what I was saying, is that I was overcoming a problem in my role as a project manager. And then I thought, I've been trying to figure it out for a few days. And then I made a phone call. Phone call was to you. Said, hey, this is the problem. And you went, oh, I know someone that come to me with the solution like a week ago. They literally said, I want to find someone with this problem and I can fix it and it would be mutually beneficial. And then I said, okay, but can you connect us? He said, yep. And then you connected us, and a week later, the problem was solved.
Yeah, and I will say, like, one aspect of that, and I was speaking about this last night, was the quality of your network, the quality of the relationships that you have. And I guess we'll dive into, like, what constitutes quality, really helps for the speed element in the problem solving
Oh, yeah.
and in this element. So, in this particular scenario, it's like going 1 or 2 degrees of separation, outside. And because of the relationship I have and the trust and the credibility and the relational equity built up, my word was just enough to make the deal happen for you, given that the two of you as separate parties don't know each other. But the weight of my word with him is enough. He's like, if you're vouching for him, then, and so I guess, like, it's a bit of a throwback to the old school days of maybe doing business on handshakes and on a trust basis. Like, we always try to verify, but there's a strong speed element. It's almost like the higher the quality of your relationships, the faster, you can go and solve problems and get to solutions.
Yeah. I think if people are asking themselves the question of how do I build these relationships to such a quality where I can make a phone call and basically solve a 6-figure problem with a phone call, I think anyone asking that, it is the answer to that is make yourself as competent and reliable as you possibly could be, because that's the only way to get really, really competent friends and acquaintances. And then just forget about the whole point of when am I going to get there, because the answer is you don't. The answer is you just keep getting better and more competent, and it takes years and decades, not months, to build up these sorts of relationships. And the secret is to always honor your word and be as competent at whatever your thing is as you can possibly be. You don't need to be a person that's excellent at a million different things. Just niche down into something that can either make you money or can provide value to other people, which then you can monetize. Because if you're solving problems, you can monetize it. Get so good at that everyone that does business with you refers you to other people. And then you'll just find, you'll look back. If you really commit to that over 2 or 3 years, you'll look back after 2 or 3 years and go, and what my network is now compared to what it was 2 or 3 years ago, it is insanely ridiculous. Because what normally happens is when people are moving through life, as long as they're on the correct path and they are meeting new people and having a look around, out of all the people you meet, there's different competencies of those people. And what happens is when you bump into people that are incredibly competent, if you've got, terrible manners, or you don't really know what you're doing, you've got a bad reputation, what's going to happen is that the very, very competent people will just choose not to see you again. And you'll never know that you could have had a great relationship with an incredibly competent.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, I think you make a great point there. Like, it's a very non-linear, like, process in a sense. Like, if you niche down or nail down and, double down on being competent, then the opportunities will flow your way. And exactly what you said, like, the corollary is also true, that, like, you don't realize that opportunities are passing you by when people are choosing not to. I mean, we had this last night, like, there are some people, like, we just, we're like passing by because they
Yeah.
haven't shown. And yeah, and it's like it's very nonlinear because like you're putting in investment and work into yourself and growing your competency and your skills and essentially your personal base of power. And that will actually lead to opportunities. And that second part is knowing how to like receive and capture and essentially like flip those opportunities
Mm.
going forward. And that's another skill like in and of itself. So yeah, I think that's really, really, really key. In terms of competencies, like what would you recommend people focus in on? Like what core competencies do you think like have the most value or you know can demonstrate and like offer the most value like in today's world?
I think what people should start with, and you can do it at the same time, is not actually being competent at something. It's body language and people skills, because
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how competent you are at anything. If you're unable to communicate your competency or your ability to do something through your body language and your people skills, then your competency won't matter. So, for example, if you look at some of these chess geniuses, chess grandmasters, a lot of them are quite eccentric, and they move around the world and they can be quite awkward. And I'd be willing to bet, unless someone knows their face or their name, if they bump into people on the street, some people might think, oh, that person's a bit weird, not knowing that he's a genius. Like, so I think before you get competent, learn a little bit about body, not a lot. I read a couple of books, I don't know if it's still around, but Alan P's Easy Peasy People Skills. There's some really basic ones. I just read a couple of books on body language and how to interact with people, and then from there focus on your competency.
Mm.
And what the competency is matters a little. Actually, it's equally important, but you never get the opportunity unless you can convey yourself in a certain way.
Yes, you've got to be able to communicate your what it is, and that comes across, yeah, exactly, like in body language, in speech, in how you carry yourself. If people want to spend time with you, be around you, can you communicate your ideas persuasively? Can you get your point across? Do you listen well to carry a conversation?
Yeah,
All
just
these
basic
basic.
stuff. Like, yeah, not expecting you to talk like Prince William. Just are you able to listen to what the other person's saying? And then are you able to interpret that and interpret what they're actually asking you? Because most of the times, if you wrote down what someone said on a piece of paper in a conversation and gave it to someone else and asked them to write the meaning down, that person would come up with a different thing than the person sitting in front of the person doing the talking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
interpreting what they're actually asking
Yes.
and listening to them.
Subtext, text and subtext. Yeah, and I've noticed as well, like how much of playing the game at a high level is about subtext and about frame and about negotiation. There's a lot of there's a lot of like fun games that go along, and you've got to know
Mm.
how to play games, and you got to know what game you're playing as well in order to move ahead and move it along. What would you say for
Yeah.
like what would you say for like a lot of people are like operating, maybe looking around and saying like, hey, I don't have that, I don't have that network, or I don't have these relationships. Like, you know, I've been in the same situation, or like, I don't have access to these high quality relationships, and I can see that everything for me is moving so slowly. And I had this conversation last night.
Mm.
Two guys, really skilled, very competent, super young, 21 years old. These guys are huge on TikTok and Instagram. And so they were like 5 million followers on TikTok, like 350K on YouTube, I think. Anyway, like big. And I was asking them like about their friends their age because, they're young, they're like 20, 21. And they were saying, yeah, like their friends, the people they know, they're the same age, they're just stuck, or they're like moving like super slow. Where these guys are making money, they're like blowing up on social media. So like their whole network and their relationships are all, dynamic and changing, super fast. But what would you say to like, those guys who are like, can look around right now, and if they were to do an audit, say, yeah, I'm a bit, it's definitely not where it should be. And I can tell I don't have access to these high quality relationships.
Yeah. So is the question in regards to the two young gentlemen you met last night, what they should do, or someone who's looking to get into their sort of position?
Well, I think they're in a great position, but I think like a lot of people are trying to figure out, or maybe not even trying to figure out, but like a lot of people are like, if you paint the picture of like how high quality relationships help you move forward and solve problems at speed, and you look around, you do an audit, and you're like, hang on a second, my relationships in my network are not really like that, and
Mm.
I'm not really getting those. Like, what would you say are the moves to make on the
Okay.
chessboard?
The moves to make would be establishing why you're at the position you're in, and not much time spent on this. I'm saying like 5 or 10 minutes. Why am I here? And then the rest of the time spent on what are my next best moves to get in front of these people? And then if I do get in front of these people, do I have the speaking skills and the competency at something to be of use to them? So all of the people who are competent and you really, really want to have around you and you want them to be at your back, but they want you want them to have your back. All of them are surrounded by so many people. They don't have anywhere near the bandwidth to deal with like 5% of them. So the
Mm.
only way to be on these people's radar and be like, they've got a kayak and they're kayaking through the lake and they're just surrounded by a sea. They couldn't even comprehend the amount of people that are around them who are trying to get their attention. You want to be the person that they take notice of. It's like, an orange ping pong ball that just flies up out of the water and they notice and talk to that person. One way to do that is to ask them for advice. And then when they give it to you, thank them, cut off the interaction. This comes back to the people skills bit. If you at all feel that it's getting a little bit awkward, you cut it off. Thank them very much for their time and say,
Mm.
I'm just going to go meet some other people. I understand you're very busy. I appreciate your time. Have a nice day. Stop it.
Mm.
Whatever they told you to do, go and do it.
Yeah.
And then do it really fast and do it to the best of your ability. And then once you've done it, hopefully you've got their phone number, ring them up. Say, oh, hey, Jason, you know how you told me the other day that I should do 1, 2, 3, 4? I've done it. It worked really fantastic. Let them know how it worked out. And then say, would it be okay if you tell me what I do next? This worked really great for me. Because most of these people, they're surrounded by these like grey ping pong balls that are boring, and that there's so
Yeah.
many people, they tell them to do something, and you've got to understand from this person's perspective, they've done it 1,000 times, so they know exactly how to do it, and they're just so frustrated because they've told 100 people just do
Yeah.
this and you get results, and 100 people just go yeah, and then they do nothing, and they see them again 3 months later and ask, what should I do? And they tell them the same thing, and then the person goes, oh, I remember you, oh, that guy.
Yeah.
You know, if you do the thing, then you've differentiated English. You've
Appreciated.
differentiated yourself from other people, and
Yeah.
then they're going to want to talk to you, even if you're not as competent as them. That's you're a breath of fresh air in a sea of grey ping pong balls that keep coming back and not actually doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's such an exchange of value, right? Like you valued their time by not wasting it. And then you valued their expertise and their knowledge and their wisdom without, and not wasted that. So you put a value like onto them that's quite high. And Yeah, that's an excellent, excellent way. And I think very, very, very few people do that.
And
And
that's the funny bit. If you know it's not that hard, you just do what they do. Just do exactly what they told you to do. Don't come back to them and say, "Hey, I know you told me to do A, B, and C. I did C, A, B, and the results were still pretty good." They're going to hang up on you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got a few different coaches and advisors like in my life and in areas that I don't have expertise in. And they say like, okay, you need to do this, this, this. So I go, okay, like it's this, this, this. Like there's no point like to argue, just to like do it and then report back. And it's their area of expertise and it works and it furthers the relationship. Yeah, I think that's priceless actually.
Yeah. What do you think the hack is? Because people want to know the hacks to building a relationship with competent individuals that are bombarded by offers from 30 people a day that want their attention and time.
Yeah, I really think it's like I really think it's like non-linear. It's like if you make investments into yourself, then inherently you will become more valuable, more useful,
Mm.
let's say. Then then it's using like some common sense and continuing to like provide that value in an interaction or in relationships. I think that's the thing. It's like uh, it's like if you don't go to the gym and then you're signed up to a Mr. Universe contest and then you walk up on stage, like you have to put the work in the gym in order to like get up on stage.
Mm.
So the stage is gonna happen, right? So you might as well put in the work. And like that might be things like having advisors, therapists, coaches, journaling, meditation, um, fitness, improving. Like for example, for me, like with my body language, it's taken me, I would say, like a good year to like improve some pretty. I took a look at myself. I was like, I have some very bad body language habits, and some took me about a year to break, and I still
Mm.
catch myself doing these things. And that was just a small private like exercise that I was doing with myself. No one's around, no one's telling me to do this stuff. But I know I was like doing it for myself and putting in that effort over the course of a year. And I fixed some of those things, it still comes up. So I think the hack is just finding all the ways to invest in yourself and improve yourself and then taking advantage of opportunities. I think there's some principles like I think movement and action and speed are really important principles. I think sitting around and thinking about stuff is very overrated. I think
Yes.
I think you can actually think and while you're moving. Like I'll give you an example. Sometimes if I get stuck and I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking about something and I get stuck, I will just go somewhere just to move, like to walk and move. And for the hour or so while I'm moving to go to the destination, I will still keep thinking about the problem or what the issue or what it is. But the benefit is I'm moving, I'm taking action, I'm in the process of doing something versus like being stationary. And there is a time and a place for that. But I just think being stationary and not moving is very like I think it's like a basic principle. And I have another thing where even like when I communicate with people, I try not to do it in a low energy state. I'll do it like while I'm on the train to go somewhere or after I'm at the gym and I've done a set, then I'll like shoot some text messages because I'm in like a
Mm.
high energy, higher vibration. Like, so there's, I think, some basic principles there. And I think like for men, it's very important to build up a base of strength, almost like building up your personal asset base in all those forms, whether it's like your mindset, your body language, your communication, just finding ways to like, you can test yourself and challenge yourself and improve yourself on a daily basis and day to day. Like it doesn't really, you never really see any changes day to day. It's like going to the gym. You never see changes like day to day. But then maybe after 3 months or maybe on 6 months, like, so sometimes I'll have these like little projects, self-improvement projects, like with myself. No one knows, but I'm just like, okay, like I could improve in this area, or I could like improve in that area. And then I just kind of track it and then see how I go over time. And I was having this conversation with one of my coaches this week, and he was like, you know why fitness guys are so good at making money is because they're dialed in on habit. So they
Yeah.
figure out you need to do this amount of sets and these amount of reps, and you get this result. And business is like exactly the same. It's just that you just need to dial in on the right metrics. And so I think, yeah, I think for me that's a huge part of it. Like making the first and primary investments like in yourself, then they will compound like over time. And when the opportunities come, then you're able to capitalize on them because your asset base is strong and you have options.
Yeah. Okay. So is it, I'll try and repeat what you said. The understanding is to have a good fundamental base of fitness, energy, mental strength, people skills, body language, is you'll have to be good at that. And then go out
Yeah.
and see.
I put it into 4 pillars. And I think the 4 pillars, you kind of, I guess like they're like buckets you invest in simultaneously. And I would say, and I think it's maybe a bit more specific for men, but I would say it's around health, power, relationships, and money. So health, fairly self-explanatory. Fitness, personal power, meaning like your vision, your mission, your values, your principles, having a strong sense of your identity, your personal power, your relationships with men, with women, friends, partners, whatever, and then your money. So if you're making investments and growing, in those foundations, the fundamentals,
Mhm.
it's very difficult. I think the
Yeah.
problem too, like people neglect one of the 4. And so then you've got like a bit of a lopsided stool, like with one of the legs like not working.
Yeah.
That's my personal theory. Yeah, so you're a bit off balance. You had the foundations of like health, personal power, relationships, and money. Then I think you've got a nice, even, balanced chair that you can sit on and put some weight on, and then like you can hold up big weight. But
Because
if
yeah,
one of those
because I think as a maybe a story so people can understand, because I think I understand what you're saying is life isn't, it's not static, it's not moving still. So you've got these pillars and you've got these buckets that you're pouring into, and you're the person sitting on that stool per se, and attacks are coming from every different angle. And so they're trying to push you over. And so then if you've got one weak leg, you can be super strong in a whole bunch of stuff, but
100,
a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. If that attack comes from just that right angle to really benefit from that weakness, that one leg, then you're going over.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Like life is all about like constantly fending off like different attacks and like problems, and like the problems never end, the attacks never cease. And so, yeah, like you need a strong base because that's going to allow you to sit on that chair, to like use that metaphor. But I would say like, yeah, if what typically happens is, you can be unbalanced because you neglect, one of those four things.
Mm.
Really simple analogy, but I would say like, yeah, having a strong seat and a good balanced seat's going to allow you to then like network with other people and other relationships. You're going to come a position of strength with options really different.
How long do you think it takes from if someone's doing a really good job from inception to having a really good relationship with a competent person? One of the people we're speaking of that with a stroke of a pen or one phone call, they can solve problems that most people would think is insurmountable.
Yeah, I think it takes time. Yeah, I think because we have that principle of like trust but verify, right? So like that takes time. So I think affinity can happen like quite quickly, but verification like doesn't necessarily happen that quickly. And I think the solution to that is just testing.
Mm.
Like I'm always like observing and testing and seeing like, how people are acting and how people are responding and just making a note, like a evaluation. So I think affinity can happen like quite quickly for sure, but verification takes a little bit longer. It's like you wouldn't marry a girl if after the first date.
No, we wouldn't, and I don't think we'd advise anyone to do that.
Yeah, that would be absolutely. The more
It's
the
been,
more that's at stake, the more that it's at stake.
I think so, and I think it's also important. It's what's at stake for you is at a different level for different people. So for a person who's very wealthy and has a lot of connections, and let's say at this particular time you have a $200,000 problem, there's a bunch of people in the world where that's nothing. And if you have that relationship and the time in the bank and you're with that person and that $200,000 problem comes up, if you've been competent and been around them for a while and you're showing yourself as a high value person, they might decide to do that 3 minutes of work to solve your $200,000 problem. Because in reality, there are people that can do that.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of yeah. Go ahead.
I'll say, yes, I was going to add that with the right people, they can solve problems like that through other connections or personal resources or this or that. And it takes them a couple of minutes to solve.
Yes.
And like that might be mind blowing to some people, and I actually hope it is. If they don't know that, there can be things that half 200,000, $500,000 that goes all the way to something that someone is in such a position that they've built up over such a long period of time that they can like basically snap their fingers, make two phone calls, and make $200,000-300,000 problem go away in a couple of minutes. They exist,
Yeah.
and so when you know those people, that's incredibly valuable. Obviously, talk to someone that that's worked a job for their whole life, and say they're 25 years old, and all of a sudden they get a $10,000 bill or a fine, or whatever. Let's call it a $10,000 problem. That's life changing to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are people walking around this planet that 200,000 to millions of dollars is nothing. If they like you, they just make a couple of phone calls and it's gone. Problem's gone.
Yeah. 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 It just comes back to like all of life is really like a value exchange between people.
Yes. And the people that have the ability to do those sorts of things, they've either inherited it, which is rare actually, or they've worked so hard and they value their time so much that it may be hard for people to believe, but yeah, they're not willing to give you that 2 minutes because they don't know you and why they don't have to and why should they?
Yeah. Exactly.
Because if they did that for everyone they'd meet, they'd be broke in 2 weeks. Because that's basically what happens. People just harass them for their resources and energy and money. And then they just select who they work with. And
Yeah. Yeah.
from what I've seen, I'd like to know what you think about this. what happens is they get asked for handouts and asked for like free stuff so much, they move to resent anyone who asks for anything free. So if you haven't already fronted up with value, doesn't have to be money. It can be just help them with something or shown them a good time. Maybe they've lost a friend and you just be a friend for a little bit. I find that those sorts of people who are really high value, unless you start off by giving them something first, they want nothing to do with you. And if you ask of them something off the bat, they resent those people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's right. Like it's people like whether they are consciously aware of it or not, understand that life is an exchange of value between people. So they may not consciously be able to articulate it, but subconsciously everybody like feels it. So that's part of like the law of the universe. There's sowing and reaping. So the way to get ahead and the way to move forward is to, when you can, if you can, provide like a disproportionate amount of value. And that starts with, firstly, within yourself, because then you will understand like what that what that looks like and what that is and the kind of investment it takes. And then that will manifest outwardly. And if
Mm,
you both then that allows you to grow and keep improving and you know and build those relationships. I think that's something that is not commonly, I don't know, it's not commonly taught, or like maybe not commonly understood overtly, but this idea of like investing in yourself to become valuable in order to offer disproportionate amounts of value in the world is, I think, a great principle. Ties to the natural order of the way that the world works. And when you're tied into how it works, then you know how to play the game. You're able to play the game to win, which is what we want to do. So yeah, I think that's like, if I was to distill it down, and that's something that I had to learn. Like I don't think maybe it doesn't come naturally, but over time, I think it's like super valuable. It just ties into the natural order of the universe.
I don't think that it's normal human nature to understand that life is a value exchange. I had to learn it, and I don't. Most people, when you broach the idea to them, they fight it quite heavily until they really let it sink in and have, think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
and it can be quite confronting. Like the reason why you may not be getting what you want is because you're not offering enough value.
yeah, but there's beauty in knowing that, because if you then flip that on your head and go, hang on a sec, there's a game being played here, and now I can see the board.
Yes.
If you have the desire, why don't you become the person that is so competent that you're surrounded by people trying to garner your attention? It can be a little bit annoying, but at the same stat I've heard, but at the same point in time, being in that position means that you've just got opportunity flying at you, and you're just picking what you want. You're just like a machine gun of ping pong balls, and you're just like opportunity, 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 and you're just picking and choosing, like picking through files. I like this book, pick that one up, dodge the rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that'll give a perspective of why, and it'll tie our story together of why high value people, you might have met them, but you just never knew, and you've never connected really, because you were just one of the ones that went, you just flew straight
Yeah.
past.
For if I think back, yeah, for sure.
So we've gone
Fortunately,
full circle.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's spot on. Well, I think we can bring it to a close, but I think that was like super valuable because we get asked a lot, like, how do we meet, like how do we work, like obviously in the way we work together, we solve problems quite fast and like try to work at speed, and like there's a lot of exponential benefit that comes from being together, and breaking it down and sharing some of that, like for people who are watching, I think is like super
It,
valuable. Like it doesn't, everything does take time, but sometimes things don't have to take time. There's ways to like act and move fast and move forward and take like exponential moves and leaps. So yeah, we're happy to kind of give some insight into like how we work and some of our philosophy, our way of thinking as well. So I wanted to thank you all for watching today or listening today on all the platforms. And you can follow us, like and subscribe, and follow us at J3VC and on the FLF pod. And we'll see you on the next one.